Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk a little bit about meditation and why and how meditation can actually be so difficult. Okay, traditional meditation frameworks, that is. So, if you're one of those people that knows it's really important to be able to, access and resource in the present moment and be able to pause the mind, especially if it's spiraling down the rabbit hole of, a flashback or just a memory, relived in a way that is really going to trigger and mount bring online the body's defenses and survival physiology, is as if that thing is happening now. Because as we know, the body is this amazing instrument in that it kind of collapses space and time. Truly, when we're working in and with the body, right? And the imprint, the impact left in the body, right, from trauma, right? Trauma is not really in the event itself, it's in the imprint it leaves, that somatic imprint it leaves in the body and the nervous system. So the body's this really amazing tool and this really amazing instrument in some ways, in that there truly is, when we're in the physiology, right, working with sensations, there truly is no future or past. Everything is just now. Okay, this is like a whole other thing I could go into, right? That seems to like align with various physics theories related to time and space, but I'll try and stay on topic here. Okay, so we know how important it is to be able to have some level of like control over pausing the mind, right? Over getting some distance between and with every thought and every story, every narrative, past or possible future, that our mind can generate up. And if we don't, right, we tend to live in a lot more suffering, right? And it can be really difficult. So, traditional meditation frameworks, though, tell you to do this, right? Which is to kind of just stop thinking, right? And sometimes this is really funny, and I'm paraphrasing, right? There's many steps and techniques that actual different meditation teachers and programs will take you through, but really, the people who come to me and say like, I just can't meditate, I just don't have any tools really for like staying in the present and being able to get the mind to just like let go of the story and calm down, right? I find, right, it sort of makes this synonymous with these, many of us feel as if meditation is just like someone telling us, or us trying to tell ourselves like, okay, I'm thinking about this thing, like now just stop thinking about this thing. And what's the number one thing that happens when someone tells you like, please just don't think about that particular song, right, that's stuck in your head, or just don't think about that whatever scene from the movie. Invariably, that becomes like the only thing that you can think about, okay, right? Because these are really kind of self-reinforcing like loops, right? So actually, the best meditation teachers, I think, know and teach, right, and guide part of what I'm going to help convey here as what I think is somewhat of a workable scenario, right? Okay, because we do want to be able to notice the mind story, right, and also that we are not that story, put some distance, right, between ourselves and that story, right? Like, oh, I notice I am having a thought, I notice I'm having a story, right? And like, I call this, you've heard this referred to as sliding back into and sitting down in the witness chair, right? Like you're witnessing the thoughts as they're happening, right? Now it's the next steps that really make or break your ability to actually be in the present, right? Quote unquote, and meditate. Right, and or meditate. However, we're throwing out terms and lingo here, okay? A lot of them are just interchangeable, and everyone has a different way of describing kind of the same thing, where we're really trying to be able to, like, essentially this next step, right? I insert here, and I think is really necessary, because our mind does so much for us, okay? After we've been able to kind of like notice that we're having a story or over rationalizing or in a string of of something, right? And we're able to notice that. We're able to somehow be like, feel as if we're bringing our awareness a little bit out of the enmeshment of that story. So there's like a little bit of distance. If the symbol or the image of like, oh, I'm sitting back in my witness chair is helpful for you. I can't remember where I first heard that witness thing. Great. Okay, so for this next step, what actually, this process of being present, this process of actually then feeling focused and as if the waters of the mind are still, for me, is actually a process of placing your neurosensory awareness somewhere else, okay? That could look like an eyes open, quote unquote, again, throwing terms out here, they're interchangeable, but meditation of, wow, I'm noticing those thoughts, we've really paused them in some way, or I've been able to drop them a little bit, and I'm putting all of my neurosensory awareness, right, with all of my senses, my eyes, my ears, out the window at this tree and taking in all of the details. Or it's what I think is really important in the work that I do is dropping into the layer of the body at that point, right? After we've sort of gotten some distance from whatever narrative or scene or possibility or overanalyzing that is happening with the mind, we're able to consciously divert that awareness, which is also known, if you're doing this inside yourself, it's known as the felt sense or interoception, right? Is coming into the body. What sensations are actually happening and where in my physiology right now as all of this stuff is going on? And that movement of the felt sense or just general neurosensory awareness, whether you're doing this proprioceptively outside of yourself or externally or internally, right? Interoceptively, I feel like that motion is really what makes her, if you get that down, or if you're working with a meditation teacher that is able to guide and facilitate in that versus like, oh, just like you're having thoughts, just try and stop them, right? Just stop thinking about the things you're thinking about. Like that just doesn't work, okay? And so if you've felt like, oh, I'm just like a dropout of meditation or being able to like calm myself and be present and stop a spiral, I hope that this video gives you a little bit of hope, okay? Because one of the practices, capacity building practices that I have in my master course, Permission to Thrive, and the first module is called a perceive and pause tracking practice, okay? So once a day, and I'm just kind of releasing it here and talking to you about it because I think it's really important and we all need some tools right now. And if this helps you bolster your arsenal, fantastic. That's always my goal. Okay, so once a day, see if you can notice the mind's narrative. That's the perceive part. And then work to pause it. Okay, pausing it. And that pausing of the story, allowing those waters to still, literally is a process of, right, noticing we're having the thought and that you're not the thought, right, or the story or the possibility, and getting some space, right? This is my moving back into my witness chair. It's like I'm getting some space from that thought so I can kind of just see them, okay? And then in order to really still, the next step in order to really still the waters of the mind, then I'm suggesting, if it feels safe for you, right, when it feels safe and you're really not caught in a flashback, close the eyes gently and really bring all of the felt sense and awareness interoceptively to different parts of the body. What's happening? What sensations? And maybe what visuals are you seeing associated with these different sensations, their textures, their qualities, like where they are in the body. And all of this, I think I would also say, I would suggest like inserting a step in here whereby if you're really having difficulty, sometimes, the ego component of the psyche is like really, really strong, and even if it's not, okay, even if that's not the quote unquote issue, really the ego is a natural part of the psyche, it's not an issue, and we're not trying to obliterate the ego, but I would suggest if this still is having some issues with this somehow, insert in there, before you do that like motion piece, moving the neurosensory awareness somewhere else, right? Instead of like all up here and we're in the mind, we're really moving, consciously moving where we place our attention and awareness and what we're paying attention to. I would suggest inserting a step there whereby you really are like, thank you, mind. Thank you. You are heard. You are seen. Like, I feel you. And then go on. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Like the mind and its story and all of its analytical prowess, and maybe how often you always have it turned on, just needs some like validation and acknowledgement, okay? And we don't want to bypass the mind. The mind's a really important ally and piece of this conversation, okay? But here's the thing: you have to know that there is a conversation that is unfolding every moment of every moment of every day for you, right? Which is two-ended, two parties. It is the mind and it is the body, okay? And if we're only ever listening to and able to tap into the mind story, right, we are missing out on the other end of that dialogue, which is the body, right? It's the physiology. And when I say this, please know, like, I'm talking about from an actual hardwired, sorry, I'm getting in the low power mode here. I'm talking about like, this is a hardwired thing in your body, right? We're talking about the nervous system, which is comprised of the peripheral nervous system, central nervous system, okay? Central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, right, is the one that innervates all throughout the body, and these nerves are bringing in sensory information and data that is monitored from the external environment as well as your internal body, right? Different cues inside yourself. And it's taking all these data, right? And it's sending it to the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal column, okay? And this is where then most of, right, it kind of hits a primal part of your brain first that has a lens called neuroception, which is like this threat detection process. And from there, it has these like kind of patterned ways of interpreting the information that is brought in, right, from that peripheral nervous system, which i.e. is the autonomic nervous system specifically. It governs all these automatic functions of our body. So it brings it in here, and then, it gets it's patterned. You develop certain patterns. Your system develops certain patterns of interpreting that information and then setting off through the higher order faculties, and then back out through the central nervous system to the rest of the body. Behaviors, beliefs, right? Like whether you move towards or away, how you respond versus react, etc., etc. And why your body does this, like, it's incredibly fucking efficient, right? Like, can you imagine if you had to consciously every single stimuli, like make a certain choice or decision to do this or that, or like breathe or not, or breathe versus eat, or, interact. I mean, there's so much about the body that we've evolved in efficiency. And most of these processes are happening, and those kind of pattern lenses and what gets set off when and where and how are dictated by these branches of the nervous system in the body and the physiology. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it's really not like most of your day is not operated like from the conscious mind. So much is dictated from the unconscious, right? And these very efficient, like automatic patterns. And that's why I'm saying it's really important, super critical at some point, right? To begin to listen to what is happening on the other side of that dialogue. Right? Again, coming back to higher order mind, we have the body. It's a two-way conversation that's always happening. Like, literally, that's how it works in your physiology. And now listen, right? Like, we go and we use technology all day. We drive a car around. It's, I don't know all the parts in my engine and how it works exactly, but I am telling you, it's not a perfect metaphor when it comes to your own like human operating system. The more that you know about how this is working or not working, is working for you or is actually working against like some of your conscious goals and desires, the more you will be able to make that unconscious conscious, change some of these hardwired patterns that are just limiting, and actually be able to create the coherence, right? There's a coherence between the mind and the body, because you're like, wow, I'm able to listen to and actually hear interoceptively the felt sense, what's going on in sensations. And this is like this is one of the first foundational steps. Okay, so it's really not just like, oh, I need to be this like Zen Buddhist, calm, whatever person. It's and that's the outcome of meditation. I'm giving you a tool here through which you can say, I want to be able to bring myself resourced into the present moment, especially if I'm spiraling in a story or a flashback. That's really critical for me to be able to regulate. I recognize that. And if I am able to not just like try and stop thinking, right? But able to actually like have these steps that I insert where I bring the awareness to something very particular, something else to pay attention to that's really in the here and now. Remember, the body collapses time and space. Like, there's only the now with what it's feeling, right? And only the now with any imprints or impacts left from trauma or undigested experiences, etc. So I want to leave you that to play with. This video became way longer than I thought, but and I will, in the comments below, or the comments to this video, I'm going to just detail the steps in this practice. Okay, beautiful.